For the debate, the member for Burlington.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I'm thrilled and honoured to rise in the House today to speak to a critically important piece of legislation for our province, Mr. Speaker, the Making Ontario Roads Safer Act, Bill 31. And in doing so, I join my colleagues opposite from Nickel Belt, Kitchener-Conestoga, Etobicoke Centre, Thornhill, James Bay, Timmins, James Bay, and Barrie. So thank you, colleagues, for participating in this important conversation. As has already been noted, Speaker, Ontario enjoys the safest roads in North America. And part of that important piece of that framework, Speaker, is because we have the kind of laws that really make Ontarians feel safe, and in reality, they are safe, Speaker. But it's worth spending a few minutes, I think, talking about the importance of Bill 31 and what it's destined to do. It is part of a broader package of legislative and subsequent supported regulatory amendments to the Highway Traffic Act, Speaker, destined to improve road safety, enhancing the collection of defaulted Provincial Offences Act fines, improving the Highway 407 East Act, and addressing a number of housekeeping items, Speaker, that are important in the ongoing maintenance of our roads and the safety of our roads. The intended outcomes of these proposed changes in this broad-ranging bill include improvements related to impaired driving by drugs and alcohol, distracted driving, medically unfit drivers, truck, vehicle and bus safety, pedestrian safety, cycling safety, I'm going to talk about that in a moment, Speaker, collection of defaulted POA fines, and of course the Highway 407 East. The road safety issues that the bill aims to address continue to be persistent challenges in our province, unfortunately, Speaker. According to recent statistics, over 45% of drivers killed in Ontario were found to have drugs or a combination of drugs and alcohol in their system. Drinking and driving fatalities represented nearly 1/4 of all fatalities in 2011. Between 2008 and 12, an average of 14% of convicted alcohol-impaired drivers were repeat offenders. That is indeed a sad statistic. And if current collision trends continue, fatalities from distracted driving may exceed those from drinking and driving by 2016. In 2011, pedestrians constituted approximately 1 in 5 motor vehicle-related fatalities. And in my previous life, before I was elected Speaker, as the CEO of the Share the Road Cycling Coalition, Ontario's cycling advocacy and policy organization, I was proud to be part of the cycling death review conducted by the Ontario Coroner that looked into cycling deaths between 2000 and 2012. And of course, Speaker, there were 125 Ontarians that lost their lives while cycling, and that is indeed something that we should all be interested in addressing, Speaker. It's often said that it takes a village to raise a child, and this legislation is no different. I'm proud of the fact that it includes ideas from members opposite. And I think that Ontarians expect that from us, Speaker. They want the best of us, they want us to work together, and this bill is reflective of suggestions and wonderful ideas from the member from Parry Sound Muskoka, member from Simcoe North, the member from Nepean Carleton, and the member from Parkdale Hyde Park. It is also the culmination of years of hard work by officials in the Ministry of Transportation and across 12 government ministries who embraced the Cycle On strategy, Speaker, that I was proud to launch in September of 2013 with the member of Toronto Centre, the previous minister of Transportation. Speaker, I spoke a moment ago about the broad-ranging aspects of the bill, and I want to focus, as I mentioned now, a little bit on the cycling safety part, Speaker. It's an issue of interest and concern to all Ontarians, including people in my riding. I know our Mayor and City Council and citizens in Burlington care deeply about creating the kind of bicycle-friendly community that we're now seeing across the world, Speaker, as cities and countries move to become more bicycle-friendly, recognizing the benefits to a more bicycle-friendly community. And what are those, Speaker? Well, they are environmental. Cycling reduces greenhouse gas emissions. Greenhouse gas emissions currently account for about 40% of all emissions, Speaker, and getting those lower is in everyone's interest. Economic opportunities. Cycling, 40% of our trips in Canada are less than 5 kilometers. If we could encourage people to ride their bikes more often, instead of taking their cars for those 5 kilometers trips, Speaker, how further ahead would we be? People would be fitter, they'd be healthier, our air would be cleaner, our communities would be more connected, our children would have opportunities to ride to school, Speaker. You know, in 1971, 87% of Canadian children rode their bikes and walked to school, Speaker, and now that number's about 13%. So we've done an absolute flip, and consequently, we're now seeing seeing record rising rates of obesity in our children. The Ontario Medical Association has pointed to the fact that this may be the first generation that doesn't outlive their parents. And so why aren't we, Speaker, finding ways to create opportunities to get our children cycling and walking to school? When I was at Share the Road, we did a survey, Speaker, of 4 Ontario school districts, and we found the #1 reason that children weren't riding their bikes to school was convenience. Their parents found it more convenient to drive them. So I think we've got a lot to do to change the conversation and to work to do that. And certainly this legislation will help to create those kinds of bicycle-friendly communities and give municipalities the tools that they need. Let me just highlight some of the active transportation and cycling safety initiatives that are highlighted in Bill 31. And Speaker, I just want to underline the fact that when I was at Share the Road, we worked doggedly on this legislation with members' office, I might add, which is a very nice thing to say and to be able to say in terms of the cooperation that's engendered in this bill, and I highlighted that a moment ago. So promoting active transportation and cyclist safety is resident in Bill 31 and is evidenced by requiring drivers of motor vehicles to maintain a minimum distance of 1 meter when passing cyclists on highways. Speaker, this is a legislation called the 1 meter safe passing law. It's something that we worked with the member from Parkdale Hyde Park on very diligently when I was at Share the Road, and is now being embraced by our government. There is a jurisdiction in Canada that has this legislation already. It's Nova Scotia, but there are over 25 US states that currently require motorists to leave at least 3 feet of space when passing a cyclist, and it has led to enormous reductions in collisions and enhanced cycling safety. The #1 reason, unfortunately, Speaker, and I knew this when I was at Share the Road because we did a lot of polling and data collection, 60% of Ontarians don't ride their bike because they're too afraid to do so, and that is definitely a number that we should all aspire to reduce. Another piece of Bill 31 that speaks to the cycling agenda, permitting cyclists to ride on the paved shoulders of all unrestricted highways. As I highlighted, the member from Parry Sound Muskoka worked very, very diligently, Speaker, on this kind of legislation for years through private members' bills. It's now being embraced by our government, and good for him for his solid work in this regard. That's going to not only make it cycling friendly, Speaker, it's going to create opportunities for cycling tourism. You know, Speaker, the province of Quebec in the year 2000, invested in something called the Route Verte, which is a 4,300-kilometer cycling route that spans the province and nets the province of Quebec $140 million a year in tourism revenue. Ontario has those opportunities resident within it, Speaker. We have beautiful roadways, we have beautiful rural infrastructure in particular, wide open spaces, wonderful wineries, restaurants, and opportunities for Ontarians to enjoy. And I know the Waterfront Regeneration Trust, Speaker, is an organization that is working with tourism, cycling stakeholders, and municipalities, and road safety folks, and the MTO right across our province, Speaker, in creating those kinds of tourism opportunities so that Ontario's residents can get out and enjoy their bikes. But having paved shoulders to ride on is going to make an enormous difference. It also is great for vehicles and trucks, Speaker. You know, if you're going to be in your rig, we heard from the Ontario Trucking Association that having a paved shoulder will prevent collisions and save lives. So that in and of itself is very, very important, and I know, again, that the member from Parry Sound Muskoka has worked diligently on that. It will also, this legislation, permit contraflow bike lanes on one-way highways and roadways. Also incredibly important. You see these all over Europe, Speaker. They're incredibly important in terms of creating a cycling network in municipalities and elsewhere. Authorizing the use of bicycle signal heads on traffic control systems. And you know, Speaker, the City of Ottawa, which is one of our most bicycle-friendly cities in the country, has cycling signals that are destined and focused on cyclists at intersections, allowing them to proceed through the intersection before the flow of traffic, saving lives and making it easier for them. These are the kinds of measures that municipalities want and need. They're asking our government, and we're responding, Speaker, because we know how important that is. Increasing the penalties for dooring, Speaker. What is dooring? People may wonder. Well, unfortunately, if we don't, as drivers, look before we open our door into the oncoming lane, a cyclist may be coming. Incredibly important. You know, CAA is poised to do some very important work in this area, Speaker, and making sure that we're very safe and that we avoid dooring will save lives and, again, create safer roads for all of us. And, you know, there are some pieces relative to fines and increasing the fines and making sure that cyclists do their part. You know, Speaker, I know that sharing the road is everyone's responsibility. And when I was at Chair of the Road, that's something that we certainly espoused. And cyclists are safe. They're also motorists, by the way, and they know that they have to do their part. So thank you, Speaker, for this opportunity to speak to an issue of great passion and interest for me, the cycling safety of our communities in our province. And I'm very proud to be part of a government that has embraced Bill 31. I want to thank the members opposite for their work, their years of work on bringing this legislation to the fore. And again, Speaker, thank you for this opportunity.